Have you ever just stared at a jar of fermenting vegetables and wondered, what on earth is actually going on in there? Is it some kind of magic? Is it even safe? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on that whole mysterious process. In this explainer, we are going to break down the 3 crucial stages of vegetable fermentation, and my goal is to turn any uncertainty you might have into total confidence.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the basic science, the why behind it all. Then we'll follow this incredible microbial journey right from the moment you seal the jar through that super fizzy active phase all the way to the mature, probiotic-rich final product. And yeah, we're definitely going to tackle that big question. When is it actually ready to eat?
Okay, before we jump into that journey, let's get super clear on what kind of process we're actually talking about here. What we're diving into is called lactic acid fermentation. It sounds kind of sciencey, but really, this is just the official name for the process that gives us amazing foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, and pickles. It's a totally natural transformation, and it's driven entirely by these tiny microscopic organisms.
For any successful vegetable ferment, there are 3, let's call them non-negotiable goals. First, it has to be anaerobic. That just means without oxygen. Second, it's got to become acidic, which is what preserves the food and keeps it totally safe. And third, well, the whole point is to cultivate all those amazing gut-healthy probiotics. If you get these 3 things right, you are golden.
And one last really crucial point before we hit stage 1. This isn't some rigid mechanical process with hard stops. Think of it more like a relay race, where the runners phase in and out, passing the baton. The different microbial populations just flow and transition into one another. It's a living thing.
Okay, so the race begins. Let's meet the first runners on the track, the characters that show up literally as soon as you close that jar. Now this might sound a little scary at first, but the first microbes to really get going are actually the villains of our story. These are the unwanted, oxygen-loving microbes that are just naturally present on all fresh produce. But don't you worry, they might show up to the party first, but their reign is incredibly short-lived.
So here's the crazy part. These unwanted microbes are pretty much the architects of their own destruction. Because they love oxygen, they really quickly use up all those tiny pockets of air trapped in the jar. But once that oxygen is gone, the salty, now anaerobic environment becomes completely inhospitable for them and they die off, perfectly setting the stage for the good guys to move in.
All right, now for the fun part. Stage 2 is easily the most visually dramatic phase of fermentation. If you've ever seen a jar just fizzing and bubbling away on your counter, this is exactly what's happening inside.
So, meet the heroes of stage 2, bacteria from the genus Leuconostoc. Now, unlike the pathogens from stage 1, these guys thrive without oxygen and they can totally handle the salt. They are the transitional workers responsible for all that amazing activity. These Leuconostoc bacteria are incredibly busy little workers. They start pumping out acids, which causes the pH to just plummet, making the environment even safer. And as a byproduct of all their work, they release carbon dioxide gas, which is what creates all those signature bubbles. And just like the microbes before them, they eventually make the brine so acidic that even they can't handle it, which, you guessed it, paves the way for the next stage. And just look at this. Look how dramatically the pH drops in just the first few days. I mean, this massive leap from a near-neutral 6.5 all the way down to a safely acidic 4.0, that is the key. That's what kills off any lingering unwanted microbes and locks in the safety of your ferment.
And you'll see the real-world effect of this right in your jar. That CO2 production doesn't just make bubbles. It actually pushes the vegetables upwards and can cause the brine to rise, sometimes even overflow. This is exactly why it's always a good idea to set your fermenting jars on a plate or a towel. Just a little pro tip there. So, as the Leuconostoc bacteria finish their work, that frantic bubbling starts to calm down, and the scene is now perfectly set for our true probiotic champions to take over.
The stars of stage 3 are the famous Lactobacillus bacteria. This is the genus you probably recognize from commercial probiotic supplements. They are the absolute masters of this new environment. It's anaerobic, it's salty, and it's acidic, and they love it. They are literally built to last.
During this mature stage, this is where the real magic happens. Lactobacillus outcompetes pretty much everyone else. It keeps producing lactic acid to hold the pH in that super safe zone below 4.5, and get this, it starts creating entirely new nutrients, things like B vitamins and even GABA. Plus, it makes the existing vitamins and minerals in the vegetables way easier for our bodies to absorb. So how do you know you've actually reached stage 3? Well, the visual cues will completely flip. The CO2 production stops, so the bubbles disappear. And without all that upward pressure from the gas, the brine level will fall and the vegetables will settle back down in the jar. A calm, quiet jar is a really good sign of a maturing ferment. Okay, this brings us to the great debate. With all these stages and all these changes, how do you actually know when it's ready to eat? Well, it's a bit of a discussion.
From a purely nutritional standpoint, a ferment usually reaches its full maturity, and by that I mean its peak probiotic diversity and nutrient development after about 20 to 30 days. This is when stage 3 has had plenty of time to really do its work.
But then you have the perspective from fermentation gurus like Sandor Katz. And he argues, hey, there's no virtue in waiting for 6 weeks if you absolutely love the taste of a 3-day-old ferment. Eat it then. He also points out that eating ferments at different stages is a fantastic way to consume a wider biodiversity of microbes. So really, the right time can also just be a matter of personal taste.
But here's the best part. You're not just a passive observer in all this. This timeline isn't set in stone, and you actually have a good bit of control over how fast or slow this whole process happens. The two main levers you can pull are temperature and sugar. So fermenting in a cooler spot, say below 70 degrees Fahrenheit, is going to slow everything down. A warmer environment will speed it all up. And likewise, if you add a source of simple sugar, like some fruit or even a little bit of honey, you're basically giving the microbes more fuel, which will dramatically accelerate the fermentation rate.
You see, understanding this 3-stage story, from the oxygen eaters to the bubbly workers to the probiotic powerhouses, it just removes all the fear and the guesswork. It lets you read the signs your ferment is giving you, and that empowers you to be a much more intuitive and confident fermenter.
You are now equipped with the inside story, the entire microbial saga that unfolds inside a simple jar of vegetables. And this understanding, it transforms the process from a mystery into a collaboration between you and the microbes. So the only question left is, knowing what you know now, what incredible ferment will you choose to create next?